Good morning and welcome to BlackAnthropy, the show where we shine a light on individuals, nonprofit organizations, and entrepreneurs who are impacting the life of individuals, families, and communities by providing knowledge, resources, opportunities, and inspiration. And this morning, we are so lucky to again have representative of an organization that checks all of our boxes, Miss Karen Snyder, Chief Operating Officer for Second Act. Thank you for being here this morning.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so I came across Second Act and I was like, wow, this is such an interesting idea and concept. And so tell us what Second Act is.
Sure. So, Second Act is a nonprofit that uses theater, drama therapy, and film to address substance use. And so, we have a few different programs that we provide in the communities. We have prevention plays that are based on real life experience, and all of our actors are in recovery themselves. So they have either had substance use disorder themselves and are in recovery, or they are in recovery because they've been affected by a loved one substance use disorder. And after those prevention plays, we have Q&As with the actors. Most of our performances are in middle schools and high schools, and so the youth get to ask them questions. Then we also have drama therapy groups, and those are for people in early recovery along with frontline healthcare workers, and that helps to deal with compassion fatigue and burnout. And then our third program are social emotional learning and prevention workshops, and those are workshops that help youth, whether it's in a recovery high school or in a juvenile correction center. It helps youth use those social emotional learning skills along with role playing and improvisation, and working with different, character traits.
Okay, so let's back up some with the program. So let's talk about how someone who, says, okay, I'm going to go through recovery. How do they get where they use acting as a recovery mechanism and become an actor and tell their story? How do they, make that transition from there? Talk about like the team and the staffing that you have to help people see the creativity and the artistry in, telling their story in a theater format.
Right. So yeah, when we do our casting for actors, it's a very niche role that we're looking for, right? We're looking for people who are in recovery and have theater, background, performance background. And so when we do our casting, we ask the actors to bring a monologue of their choice, and then we also do casting within using one of our scripts to put them into a character's role. And so once the actors start working with us in the rehearsal process, one of the things that we use in the rehearsal process are drama therapy exercises. And these exercises really help to bring the emotions that people have gone through, whether it's substance use disorder themselves or being affected by a loved one, really being able to use theater in a therapeutic way, which a lot of times doing movement or playing a role is easier for someone than speaking about the emotions that they're having. You know, being able to put that into a role is therapeutic.
Yeah, and that is so interesting because I think, maybe for most people, at least to my mind, until, I heard about second act and then art therapy, I really only, thought of therapy one way. And it wasn't until, I came across, second act and art therapy that I thought of, and you all explained the distinction is talk therapy versus creative therapy, in which, because everyone can't and doesn't feel comfortable expressing their emotions and using some creative outlet to do it. I thought that was so interesting. I would never have thought of it like that. And so, to have actors see other actors like them tell their story.
Yep.
What impact does that have on allowing the actors to feel more comfortable telling their story in that creative way, and being able to perform the role?
Yeah, well, I feel like it allows each of them to be more vulnerable when they're, they're all sharing their stories and can identify with each other because they've gone through similar situations, similar emotions, and so it really helps them to feel, I believe, a sense of a community.
Oh yeah.
Which is really also important, community and connection for recovery.
Okay. And so that's interesting that then you all have prevention plays to do that. And so, because a person may have experienced substance use issues, they may have not been acting for a while or something like that. So I like that you all use all of these different techniques and tools, the role playing, different theater games, and talk about some of the different games that you all use to get people to bring out, those creative juices.
Sure. So one of the little games is called Rose, Bud, and Thorn. And so rose is something good that happened throughout your week. A bud is something that you're working on. And then a thorn is something that is challenging or has felt negative for you. So that's an exercise. There's also a drama therapy box, which allows you to put in the box an emotion that you want to leave in the box. So, for example, if I am feeling stressed, I could put stress in the box. And then you could also have physicality towards what you're going to be putting in the box too. You can have movement around that as well. And then also, what are you taking out of the box? So something that, you shared in this rehearsal process together as something positive that you're taking with you.
Okay. And then now let's talk about your social emotional learning curriculum, because that's very interesting. Talk about that, and because you all have all of the games in there, you all have the workshops and so forth and so forth, because you all use the teaching artists to teach those different people how to cope with and deal with and express those emotions. So talk about that social emotional learning program that you all have.
Yep.
So like everybody could benefit from that, right?
Absolutely. I definitely think that. So we provide it for youth. It's mostly middle school and high schoolers, and it allows them to, you know, gain self-confidence, self-esteem, self-awareness through these different exercises, like you said. So whether it's an improv game, doing role playing, you know, looking at different roles that you play in your life. So, for example, if a youth maybe feels as though they are taking on a lot of responsibility in the house, you know, they could, you know, play kind of like a parent figure, you know, and do an exercise around that role and how those emotions make them feel, but in a different role.
Oh, okay. And now one interesting thing is, again, and I, you know, picked this up from, you know, doing some background research on second act is, and we talked about this, talk about when the kids come to see the play and how noisy it is, and then how they are really, how these plays really resonate with young people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I actually performed with this organization over maybe 15 years ago, a long time ago in my early recovery. And the one thing that was pretty astonishing to me was, you know, an assembly full of 500 students, how, you know, when they're all sitting in their seats, you know, there's a little bit of, you know, talking and noise. And then once we start in with the performance, it's silent, because it's an engaging way that students are recognizing on stage things that they have seen in their life. So whether they themselves have struggled with substances, or they have a friend or family member, most of the time it's a friend or family member that they love that is struggling, and it helps them to put a name to these emotions, right? By seeing something on stage, they're able to recognize, oh, these are things that I've seen, and this is not a normal behavior, right? Some people who, if they grow up around people who are behaving in a certain way while being intoxicated or high, they just think that that's normal, but it's not, and that person is under the influence, and you know that it's not the youth's fault of the behavior of the person with substance use disorder.
Wow. And so again, when I had the art therapist on, Gabrielle, she talked about how she likes teaching this art therapy and working with young people. And one interesting, and you talked about it, I think what's interesting is, and I would again have not thought about this, she said, well, teaching this at such a young age gives people a place to go when they are under stress. So being exposed to it at an early age, it gives them a place to go. And I thought that was so interesting. And she said it's easier for them to get there and utilize those coping mechanisms and like you're saying, these different games and so forth. You all actually use an art therapist as well, right?
A drama therapist.
A drama therapist.
Yes.
Yeah, art. She does art therapy. You all actually use a drama therapist.
Yes.
And so, what is it called? Dramaturg? What is the term? In
drama therapy.
What is the term? Never mind.
Oh, okay.
When they, dramatize your play or whatever, dramaturg or whoever, whatever the title.
Dramaturg.
Yeah,
You're right. That is a term in the theater for someone who looks up, I think, different words and phrases in plays.
Is that what they? Okay, yeah, because I know it was a play, a show I watched years ago. It was about theater, and that's what the one of the main actors. That's what her role was,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, I never heard of that. And so, talk about what you all's drama therapist does,
Yep.
though.
Yes, so our drama therapist facilitates these drama therapy groups, and they're also the drama therapist is in recovery as well, and so um, that helps to bring a bond with um, the participants that they're working with, and so our clients are like I had shared, people in early recovery themselves. So we've worked with the Cleveland Municipal Court's specialized dockets, so the drug courts and veteran courts, and then also in Summit County, we've worked with their drug court program as well. So these drama therapy groups are another recovery support for them during this time, while they're going through drug court. And then we also work with frontline healthcare workers. Um, so peer recovery supporters, who are people who have lived experience, work with people who are either in the ER and detox, and they're at a point where they could get additional help, or they're at that point of thinking about stopping using substances and getting into recovery. That peer recovery supporter really helps to give that person the confidence to talk with the doctors or other healthcare professionals, and that they've gone through that experience and that recovery works. But with those frontline healthcare workers, there's a lot of compassion fatigue and burnout, and so these drama therapy groups are really a way that other that they can work with other peers, again, have that sense of community, be able to focus on the support that they can get through doing something creative.
That is so interesting because, excuse me, because when I read that second act does that, and listening to you, it makes me think about all of the different activities, and the way that, like Google was like one of the first companies that built its campus to accommodate all of these different things that people deal with throughout the day. Whether it's they wanted them to be at work, so they made it convenient. Having dog parks, washing, little rooms where you can go and sleep, or just get away from your desk and your work.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's exactly what the drama therapist does, and what second act is set up for people. Like you say, if you're in a highly stressful environment, I mean, just imagine, that's another outlet for people when they're at work throughout the day, and it's something that people look forward to,
Right.
can look forward to
Exactly.
throughout the day. And so that's very interesting. And again, I think all of these things, as they are brought into workplaces, as they are brought into schools, they are introduced to more people. It is again contributing to the destigmatizing therapy and what people think about as therapy and getting help and being in a community. And so, when I read all of this, I was just like, wow, this is, a social emotional learning program. I think everyone needs that. Households can use that, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely jobs need this. I mean, this shouldn't just be in a theater. And so let's back up a little bit, because one thing that I like was the founder, how the second act was even founded.
Right.
And generally, this is how, things happen, person's own personal experience. And what's that saying, that most successful businesses are created from a need or something like that. And so I guess, her need to express herself. So talk about the founder, how she, created, Second Act.
Yes. So in 1984, Lynn Bradley, who is a person in recovery, she had a theater background, and wanted to bring together theater and recovery and share that there's that there's help out there, right? But really being able to show plays based on real life experience into schools to really start prevention. We all know of other prevention programs out there that could, have that scared straight tactic, which doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So she created the play that we still have today called I'll Never Do That.
Yeah.
Is her experience. She was a mother who had substance use disorder. Her husband had some denial around her disease, there were times that he didn't want to deal with it, right? Have a lot of frustration. Her daughter was trying to get her help. Her daughter was, kind of caring for the whole family, kind of taking on that parent role. And then her son started to use substances. And so it showed how everyone in the family was affected by her disease. And, it ends with her in recovery, and her husband and her daughter, seeked counseling for their own help. And at the end of the play, it does leave you that, the son hasn't gotten help, but that, he knows that there's help out there.
And that's the effect that a person that does substance use, that, like you say, it affects everyone. And again, that's something that I've learned over the last couple of years that I have been doing, writing and, interviewing people, talking about their story, is that organizations such as yours, it's important to not just focus on the individual that's getting the therapy or the service, but the community that they're spending most of their time in, the family, the parent, the guardian.
Yep.
Because to carry that through and to allow them to see how the person's being treated. One interesting thing is, I listened to you. One of my favorite movies of all time is When a Man Loves a Woman. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
And that, and Andy Garcia, I just thought he played he really sold that role, because she was, he was in denial about it. And it was something else, how she, whether you want to say, she blamed him and he accepted that blame throughout. And so it was just really interesting listening to that. But again, I want you to talk about that history and the founding of it, because again, the mission of BlackAnthropy is based on reading so many stories of so many people who had some kind of passion, and they found a way to create an organization to help other people, that have a similar experience. And so, Lynn's play I'll Never Do That, another, that play, like you said, that's the longest running play. That play has run for years.
Yep.
Right.
40 years.
Yeah. And, you all had another one, what is it, Next Generation, the senior citizens, they travel to senior citizen homes doing the same thing for people affected by, so it really shows how these plays really resonate with people. And you all really found your audience, because it's the kids in the schools and then actually doing the plays. How did you all come to start working in the schools?
Yeah, so it was really just a lot of outreach, just looking, cold calling schools and seeing what prevention programs they already had, and if they were interested in adding in, the programs. And then in 2016, we actually had Dr. John Kelly did a survey with middle school students in the Boston, Massachusetts area. That's where our headquarters are. And then we also have a Cleveland chapter here in Ohio.
But let's do this
Yeah.
before you just simplify that real
Okay.
quick, because I started to interrupt you, but I already got that asked that question. Talk about how you went to school for theater and so forth, and the organization's second act started in Boston, Massachusetts, and then how there ended up being a chapter here. So let's talk
Okay.
about it from that way.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So yes. So Improbable Players was the name of our organization that Lynn Bradley founded in 1984, and we have had that. We had that chapter up until 2021, so 1984 to 2021. And then our executive director at the time, Annabeth Moyer Bell, she had founded an organization in Rhode Island that was very similar to ours of using theater to address substance use. And hers was called Creating Outreach About Addiction Support Together, a very long name, also called COAST. So in 2021, we merged both of those nonprofits and then renamed it Second Act. So when I've been in long-term recovery for 20 years, and I, within my first few years of being in recovery, I was living in Boston, Massachusetts, and a friend of mine in recovery was also an actor with Improbable Players, and she said, you should really try out. She knew that I had a theater background, and I was interested, but I was also nervous because I really loved theater, when I was drinking, because I could be another character like that. The way that I looked at it was that, I didn't like myself, so I wanted to be another character. And so now that I was in recovery and, trying to love myself, I thought, I don't know if I want to, be in a character role. And the thing that, really pushed me into it was my friend told me, because these plays are based on, experiences that we've had, it's a different experience to be on stage in a character role where you identify with the feelings that character is going through. So to me, what makes the work so special is that us actors in recovery are identifying with the characters that we're playing. Yes, we're playing a role, but we have that connection, which I think makes it really authentic for the audience. And then I was only in a few performances, and I was working other work when I lived in Boston, and I'm from Ohio. I moved back here 7 years ago for family reasons, and after my mom had passed of cancer, I was really struggling. And it came to me one day that I should start a Cleveland chapter of Improbable Players, and I called up my friend Chris, who originally asked me to perform all those years ago, and I said that I wanted to create a Cleveland chapter, and she said that the board had actually talked about expanding the organization. So we've been in Ohio now for 6 years, which is a real gift.
Yeah, that's good. And you know, I hope to see one more second act um, theaters, productions, I should say, and especially here, Cleveland Playhouse Square just got a new president or CEO, and that's what they're looking at is how to, at least from his what he did his initial public speak in last fall, and he talked about wanting to reach out to make Cleveland more community theater, Cleveland or Northeast Ohio's community theaters more involved in what they're doing down there, and there's so much space to do it down there too. So I really hope to see that, because how many people have seen second act plays, right?
Right.
900,000, and and
it's now over 1 million.
right, yeah.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, it was
right.
900,000,
yep.
and it's over 1 million. And so that is telling you that there's staying power. That's definitely a topic that people are interested in. It's subject matter that has importance and resonance with people to be able to last, that long. And then it's good that the organization was, open to and considering expanding. So, it really made it where, made it possible to bring it here to Cleveland and talk about some of I like a lot of the new programs and things that Second Act is doing as well, like the digital, online digital programming. Talk about some of that stuff.
Yes, so Second Act Digital are short public service announcements that help to destigmatize people using naloxone and Narcan, carrying it with them. So if someone is having an overdose, anyone can save a life with naloxone. And so they're short 2-minute films that really have a narrative of someone who has experienced an overdose and has been revived by naloxone, or someone who has lost a loved one because of an overdose, and how that has affected their life. And how if that person who lost a loved one, if someone had naloxone, if they were with someone else, they could have been saved.
Right. And then talk about your the writers' room. You all started that last year in 2003,
right?
Did you?
Yep, 2023 we started the writers' room, and so that has our playwrights in recovery. We contracted with Playwrights in Recovery to write a new script for us, one of our prevention plays, and we partnered with a youth support and network organization in Massachusetts to create this play, and it includes interviews of youth in that have dealt with substance use and recovery, and the playwrights took those interviews and then created a play out of it.
Wow. Yeah, I just went to an art exhibit about a month ago, and an artist during COVID did something similar to that. Went around drawing pictures of people during COVID or whatever, and it was an entire exhibit to all or at least a lot of the people that she did the drawings of, and it was like, wow, that was, so that's what it reminds me of. Is getting those stories and telling those people's stories and making it into a play. And then what about the new works department, where you all go out And that, so that's what that is where you all go
Right.
out into the community
Yep.
and get those stories, and then
Mhm.
you all create the okay,
Yep.
okay, and then talk about the workshops that you all do. Do you all, like with the social emotional learning, you all have different workshops that you all do? Talk about those different workshops that you all have.
Yeah, so those workshops are um, in either recovery high schools or in juvenile correction centers. So it's with youth
And
and
so second act goes in, and you all's personnel go in with them and actually.
correct. Our teaching artists in recovery go into those locations and provide these workshops. Each client, you know, um, has different lengths of time for, you know, when they want workshops. So sometimes we're in a school for a whole year, like once a week, and then other organizations, you know, have us in for a summer, like a 12-week program or something like that.
And then how does it work when you all working with the courts?
So the courts, that's what for our drama therapy groups,
Mm-hmm.
and that's similar to our social emotional learning work, where the client can decide how many sessions they want. So with the courts, we've done, you know, 12 weeks, once a week drama therapy groups. The thing that I'm really excited about that's coming up on June 4th, it's not in Cleveland, it's in Akron, but it's with the Summit County drug courts. We've done a specific drama therapy manualized model, which is called co-active therapeutic theater. And what that is it's a 13-week program, once a week, drama therapy groups that allow the participants to write and create their own short play based on their experiences. And they are going to be performing at their drug court graduation on June 4th.
And shorts, what's the time frame do they get? Minimum minutes to maximum, or minimum seconds?
Oh, for the play,
Mm-hmm.
This one that they're creating now will be about like 40 to 45 minutes long.
Okay.
So it'll be a short play.
Okay, is that what about the webinars the second act presents?
Yes, so those webinars are educational webinars that are, we've had a range of them, from, you know, having our, you know, artists and drama therapists on to talk about our different programs. And then we've also partnered with other organizations to talk about different things that are a part of our organization. So we had a webinar around harm reduction. We had a webinar around recovery-friendly workplaces.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just educational webinars.
Oh, okay. One thing I do like that your organization does, and you know, you all make it public, is you all are monitoring the outcomes, the objective for each of the programs that you have. Mm-hmm. Is clearly listed, and then you all are also disclosing what those outcomes are. Mm-hmm. And how you all talk about how you all use that information, how often you all capture that information, and then use it to put back into the program to continue to build, modify the curriculums for these, because these are taught by, you know, the curriculums that you all use, they're put together by a management team or something like that, right?
Right, yeah. Our education program manager works with our teaching artists to create the curriculums for each of the sites that we're in. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
So I'm just saying, you know, you all use these.
Yes, okay, sorry. The feedbacks, the feedback survey. So for each of our programs, we always do surveys at the end. So when we have a prevention play with the school, we always ask them to complete feedback forms So a lot of times the teachers will pass out the forms to the students after the performance to get the students' feedback. And then our drama therapy groups, it's usually at the end of the entire program. So if it's a 12-week program, at the end of the 12 weeks, then we would do surveys with that group. And that's same for the social emotional learning. You know, if we're with an organization for a summer, we would get the feedback forms at the end of the summer, or you know, if we're in the school for the entire year, then we would do feedback at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. And the other play that has a lot of success, the initial one, I'll never do that. But then also you all have the one, I'll Be There For You.
Yes.
Right. And so you all have some plays that have really toured for a very long time. You know, clearly that's how you get up to 1 million people that, see, your different plays and so forth and so forth. And so I like how you all, and again, that's how the mission of BlackAnthropy was created, is you all merged. Two organizations saw that they were doing the same thing, and rather than go in competition with each other, came together to say, let's make one organization, and that way, you have more resources to share, more experiences to share, because you all have a lot of people on your staff, with your teaching artists, your drama therapists, people putting together the curriculum, and so it's not just some small theater just putting together plays. I mean, you all have like a serious curriculum. But I think a lot of community theaters, like here, I think there are some community theaters, they do the same thing with the summer programs and stuff like that. But with you all having that niche there, you all do get a lot of people in that are able to help grow and sustain the organization. And like I said, with the therapy becoming more and more destigmatized, which I think is so interesting and so important, because a lot of this stuff, like I said, I'm reading this like, this doesn't just apply to theater.
Right, exactly.
So what do you have planned to do in Northeast Ohio for the next year or two, since you've brought second play to Northeast Ohio?
Yes, so we are definitely going to be expanding our drama therapy groups. We actually did a pilot program at the Cleveland Clinic for their art therapists that they have a number of art therapists that work with clients at the hospital there, and then we're also going to be providing drama therapy groups to other healthcare workers there, which is exciting for us. And then we also are looking for funding to bring our prevention plays back into the schools, because a lot of the schools have taken away those large assemblies after COVID. That's really been a hindrance. So we're really hoping to get back into the schools.
And then next week, is it, you all are going to be doing your annual encore celebration?
That's right. Yep, our annual fundraiser will be in Boston, Massachusetts on Tuesday, May 21st. And we're really excited. We actually created a new short video that has some of the students who are at one of the recovery high schools that we're in, that we do the social emotional learning workshops with. The students share how the workshops have really helped them. And then some of the staff at the recovery high school also just share their excitement for our programming.
And so when you say recovery high school, what does that mean, and how does school get that designation?
Sure. So a recovery high school is a high school with students that are on the path of recovery. So they've struggled with substance use disorder, and they need to be in a high school that where there's not other triggers of, you know, other students using substances. So they have, you know, the normal curriculum that another high school would have, but it incorporates other supports for the students.
Oh wow, that's wow. Again, that doesn't sound like something that just needs to be in a particular type of school, but yeah, you know, like you say, the triggers, and then just to make sure, you know, everyone, you know, is clear. Substance use. What all substance uses are the second act, you know, do you know, dramatic plays for?
So you mean the type of
Yeah, well,
substances?
content. Yeah, yeah. What are the type of substances like actors or people may come there for therapy for, people you're teaching artists and so forth that they have recovered from?
Oh, okay. So it's yeah, it's any drug that they were not able to stop using on their own. So um, it could be any substance, you know, weed, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, opioids. Um, it's yeah, any substances they're in, any drug substances that they're in recovery from.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I don't think that it's always that clear that everyone knows what it is
Right.
because, you know, when you say, you know, it's like sometimes different terms and things are like that are used, and so
Yep.
sometimes people are not sure. One thing I do like is that you all have those PAs, those public announcements that are very short, because I think that those can be used as a form of therapy and, you know, coping and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Because people don't have to wait to see a play or something like that, and they can access those videos at any time. And then I don't know. I think it's some, you know, some comfort in knowing. It's one thing being an actor and playing, you know, someone that was in the military or playing someone that was, you know, had substance use issues or, you know, whatever someone's professional background is. But it's another when the actors are actually, you know, telling their story or someone whose story was similar to theirs. And I would have to imagine that people, again, that's why it resonates so much with the youth when it's in school, because like you said, you're listening like, wow, that's okay. It helps to explain things that they're not getting at home or that they may not be talking about with other people.
Right.
And so, you know, again, and then having the information available on your website so that people understand what they're experiencing, what they've seen, how they can, you know, dig and get that when they need it. And so, you know, again, I always think that organizations such as Second Act, this work that you all do, it helps all of society. It, you know, because all of us benefit from people having coping mechanisms, people that care enough about other people in society that they create organizations that provide services that people need. And, you know, because we may not always hear about these things all of the time, or, you know, masses, large numbers of people don't in society don't hear about them, you know, we can assume that, oh, it's not, nothing is being done. But there are just so many organizations, like you say, when you're smaller, you know, you need funding, you need volunteers, you need so much staff and so forth devoted to helping to get the word out. So I always say that's the small contribution that BlackAnthropy can, you know, give,
Right.
given all of the work that organizations such as Second Act, you know, is doing. So I want to thank you so much for coming in and telling us about Second Act and telling your story too, because again, that's a big part of it, is getting people to see this person, whatever your experience was. You know, I made it into something that, you know, is really transformative for the rest of my life. And you don't mind sharing. So talk about how people can find Second Act and on the internet?
Yes, so you can go to wearesecondAct.org
With the number 2?
with the number 2, and yeah, you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and our handles are, again, We Are Second Act with the number 2.
All right then. Well, thank you very much, and that's going to be it for BlackAnthropy today. Thank you again, Karen and Second Act, for being here and telling us all about how individuals in recovery are using theater to tell their story about their substance use. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.